Welcome along to today's Council meeting, 14th of February 2024, Valentine's Day. Please stand for the karakia and Council affirmation. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā tara tara ki tai, ehi akia nā te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihei mauri ora. Let us affirm today that we as councillors will work together to serve the citizens of Selwyn District, to always use our gifts of understanding, courage, common sense, wisdom and integrity in all our discussions, dealings and decisions so that we may solve problems effectively. May we always recognise each other's values and opinions, be fair-minded and ready to listen to each other's point of view. In our dealings with each other, let us always be open to the truth of others and ready to seek agreement, slow to take offence and always prepared to forgive. May we always work to enhance the well-being of the Selwyn District and its communities. We will. Welcome along. We've got a full house today, so there's no apologies, and I believe everyone's here for the full meeting. Is there any identification of any extraordinary business that's not on the agenda, Sharon? Haven't received any? No. Are there any conflicts of interest people would like to raise that aren't already captured on the register? There are none. And just before we move to the public forum, I just welcome a man from the press who's here taking some photos, just so people are aware there's some photos being taken today. Public space. So welcome along, sir. So I'm not sure what your name is, but feel free to take shots of us and the walls and anything else that you decide is useful. Public forum today is Rob Hunt. Rob, welcome to the table. Thank you for coming to speak to us. You're familiar with this space, so 10 minutes allowed for you to present to us and then to also have some question and answers from councillors. The right-hand button on the microphone is the one that will turn it on, and just press it once to turn it on, and you can leave it on.
Kia ora koutou, ko Rob Huntaho. I'm the presiding member for West Rolleston Primary School. It is a pleasure to attend again, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to talk to you about what is an ongoing pressing concern, and one I know that the council is familiar with, and I appreciate has talked to and deliberated about prior, which is the traffic safety outside of our Kura West Rolleston Primary School. I certainly want to share with you that first of all, we come from a place of understanding that some of the challenges that the council face have been influenced by changes to local government directive, but can't stress enough how concerned we remain around our tamariki, our community, and the impact of safety that is evident every day. We have approximately 600 of our 800 children who cross that road in the morning and at the end of the day. 1,600 crossings. We have parents, we have their siblings crossing that road. And that road is busier and busier by the day. And obviously the expansion of subdivisions as they continue to grow, and the further subdivision that's just commencing at the bottom of Duns Crossing Road is likely, certainly going to increase traffic congestion again on Duns Crossing Road. When I look at the challenges that we face, it is two sides. Firstly, it's an infrastructure issue, and secondly, it's a speed issue. And I know that from the speed consideration, there were some challenges around how that was presented at the council public meeting in November or December as that date presented itself. My understanding, and I appreciate this is where I'm from a school board perspective and not from the council perspective, sees that legislation, the rule that was put in place, setting a speed limits rule, 2022 with the amendment still of 2023, still outlines the expectation that Category 1 schools, which West Rolleston is, still has a 30k speed limit outside of that school. So the legislation on that rule is still worded as saying speed limits outside schools must have a 30k speed limit unless they had a 40k speed limit prior to the time of that rule coming into force. Now, that's great for an interpreter, for me to read that, and I appreciate there's caveats around that, which I'm sure someone can educate me on. But it says that the tone of that is still very clear from local government minister. That hasn't been revoked or repealed. That still remains. The piece that was removed from what we understand is the timeline around the general plan for school speed limits. I just want to also talk to, I guess, the community feeling that is now really evident. Time goes by fast and slow, as we know, as we go past. But our children have gone through this career now for 8 years. We've had the first full cycle, and we shouldn't be going through another cycle of 8 years to wait for the major infrastructure needs that are absolutely needed today to meet the social well-being responsibility of council and the benefits to our community that gives: active transport, safe walking to school. So I certainly ask of council, you know, can consideration be done to expedite this? And I'd almost question, is this a part where an emergency around safety can be called? Because when you have that many people crossing a road every day, you actually have the risk of injury or risk to life. And potentially there's powers within the council to look at, from that perspective, temporarily, why other things are worked through. Kia ora.
Good, Robin. Thank you for those thoughts, and imagine everyone here agrees with what you're saying around the safety of people in our community, and particularly children and families around schools. Are there any questions that councillors have? Sophie.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, firstly, thank you very much for coming again, and I really apologise for the fact that it's an again. Yeah. The sudden change to speed management plan, or at least the advice we were given from central government around that, was disappointing from many perspectives. We're still waiting, obviously, for them to come out with their new guidelines. But my question with regard to yourselves is, it's been indicated by Minister Brown that his thought is that we should be putting flashing, like, sort of variable speed limits outside schools, focused on the start and finish of the day. And I know my thoughts on that as a parent, but I'm just wondering, as a presiding chair of that particular school's board, what do you think sort of hours, or would it be 24/7 from a West Rolleston school perspective, please?
Look, it's a fair point to be addressing the options of both variable or fixed speed limits. At this point, we'd take either. You know, I'd be quite clear in saying, I think we have to cover the 8 o'clock through to 9:15 type sections. We need to cover the periods after school, 2:45, 3:30, as priorities. I would just stress, though, that we have an asset which the council has talked to in its reports, being our bike track. And for anyone to go down to Duns Crossing Road at the weekend will see how busy that bike track is, not only just on weekends, through school holidays, and also after schools as well. And that's not just West Rolleston students using that asset. It is tonga which is used by, we see school children from many schools in their different uniforms there. So my question would be, the safety of the children crossing to that exists beyond a variable 30k limit, which could potentially be put in place.
Thank you, Phil.
Kia ora, Rob. Thanks for coming in again. I asked you the question you here last time, and I'll ask again now. What's the one thing that we can do? You may remember the question from last time. What's one thing that we can do, the most important thing?
It is hard to quantify the one thing, and I appreciate the priority list is always there. The long-term plan for the council has already alluded to the junction at Burnham Crossing Road and Duns Crossing Road should have signalled traffic lights. So that was scheduled as part of the long-term plan for 2032, I think it is, and I apologise if it's 2033, but 2032 to 2033 was the original signal intention for that. There has been significant infrastructure been put through subdivisions since the time that was first published. And I would argue that waiting a further 8 years is completely unacceptable for the demand that's needed on that junction. So in answer to your question, an immediate way of solving all problems is by signalising the traffic at that junction. That solves traffic coming from the bottom of Duns Crossing Road, from Burnham School Road, and slows traffic naturally as well as that.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Phil. Grant.
I was wondering from your observations whether you currently have a speeding problem. Is it just people are travelling at 50 or are people travelling excessive over that? And, you know, because often there's a train of traffic and even though the speed limit's 50, they're doing 30 anyway. Is that an observation? The second question I would ask is, often when new schools are set up, there's obviously quite complex arrangements around traffic safety, which are a requirement for the Ministry of Education to provide. From your knowledge, has the MOE provided all the interventions that it was to do as part of its consent?
So thank you for the first question. I would quite comfortably say any vehicle travelling past the school at 50k feels too fast, you know, and that's not necessarily exceeding that limit. Just even at that limit at 50k is a concern, particularly when we look at the nature of some of those vehicles. We've got some high use trucks, we've got some big vehicles going through to Pines Waste, and that is really important for us to recognise that it's not just small vehicles, it is an arterial road. It does have the entry point for a lot of vehicles into Rolleston. In the second part, obviously, the consent which was put in place for our school, the nature of them consents, from my best understanding, everything that has been done aligns to that. The ministry has provided additional support as it can do. We as a board have used operational funding to expand our internal footpath access points. We've used our own internal funding to change the way that we can use our Kiss and Go internally in our school. But we are restricted in what we can do. We wouldn't happily work with council if there was a way to expedite this, but we also feel that there is a need for consistency across our kura, and at the moment, we have just a single Kia crossing for such a large size school, and yet council has found resource to support some other kuras with some significantly more resource, such as speed restrictions, additional signage, and things like that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Shane.
Tēnā rā tātou katoa, re mihi ana kia koutou. Nā mahara mai e Rob, ngā mihi mahana, e ngā kura, te kura o te uru kōwhai. E rei mana whenua, e kura matua Sam, timu whakahaere, kaimahi, tangata whenua, tangata tiriti, toitu te tiriti o Waitangi. E Rob, thank you for the visit that I had, and I might possibly get into the mechanics of how and what, but from my heart, bro, I walked around and the mātauranga of mana whenua e Denise Sheik, e whaia Denise, was woven throughout the kura, and the little smiley happy faces, the love that pours out of the ear and then is at risk on the street outside is someone's responsibility, surely, and we're discussing who might have the responsibility. Well, it's time for someone to actually own it, and however we get there, this is 8 years and this third time that I've seen you come through to plead, and I almost want to cry to help, but I feel you, aroha, and I hope that through our deliberations, it's got to come from somewhere, obviously, but that it's made more of a priority, and in the public minutes that we're about to pass soon, there is some conversation and cordial around that, and that the report that was pulled makes reference to this particular topic, and is yet to be action to be followed up. Kia ora, Rob.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Thanks, Shane. Nicole?
Thanks, Rob. Can't believe you're having to come and talk to us again, but this is an ongoing process, and obviously some of these things take time, and particularly with funding things, looking at long-term with traffic lights and such like at this intersection. So you've put in some photos in, which is quite good, of that intersection. And then I'm asking about where kids are crossing on various corners of the intersection. So would your school be happy to, there were additional care crossings put in, actually operate those around that intersection? Just raising it as a question. No, obviously definite. Going forward, this is obviously operational level, but just from your perspective, actually, because it needs to have a parent, whatever, operating it.
Nicole, thank you for the question. We would be more than happy to support additional infrastructure in the sense of staffing. We're fortunate to have a very significant school role, lots of volunteers who wish to be trained up to be care crossing supervisors, and from a school consideration, it's actually a good way for us to be seen and talk to our community. So we've got no problem in having staffing support on those crossings. We just need the crossings.
Cool, thanks for that.
Thank you. Thanks, Rob, for coming in. I've had a just quick chat with Sharon. There'll be a verbal update on this matter next week. It's too quick to turn around a report, but as part of the infrastructure presentation that will be part of Deborah's committee, there's the opportunity for this matter to be explored further as part of that. And if there's further follow-up items, then a more formal response will be coming back to you, Rob. But thank you for coming in today and sharing your thoughts and concerns with us.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Councillors, we move to page 12, which is the confirmation of the public minutes from the 13th of December meeting. So mover and seconder for those. Thank you, Malcolm. Seconded, Bob. Is there any conversation or corrections in those minutes? Phil?
I just got a clarification, Mr. Chair. It's around item B, 3 in there, which is the head of venues and events. There was an agreement that there was going to be an assessment made of all those halls. I just wanted to make sure that that was the same one. If we go back to the across the public matters under investigation, that is the same item in that document, in that spreadsheet there, which has been deferred till after the LTP.
My understanding is that it's the same cross-reference.
It's just that the meeting referred from was obviously some time ago. So I'm wondering if I think it might need to be added in there again, just have another specifically around the underutilisation. And I think that's a very important thing to do with capture from the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
I suppose you can update the minutes to reflect that. Thank you. Is there any other matters on the minutes? All those in favour say aye. Aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. The public matters under investigation list is there as well. Is there anything on there or not on there that people were expecting to see? It's on page 20. We'll move on to the Mayor's report. Sorry, Deborah, I didn't see anyone. Deborah? Yeah.
Sorry. With regards to confirmation of the minutes, on the road safety okay. It's okay. I've got moved X and X, and it was pulled from the agenda. Does that need a mover and a seconder? It's just a question to pull it from the agenda. It's okay.
If it wasn't debated and brought forward, then it doesn't need a mover and a seconder. Cool. Mayor's report's on page 21.
Mr. Mayor, kia ora, Sam. I just have one question on that, and shouldn't it move that report then move to actions? We've just said that we're going to have a verbal update, but is there should it be moved into public matters from under investigation with a timeline on it?
Which matter, sorry, Shane?
The speed.
Sharon?
I think given that it'll be reflected in the minutes that there will be a verbal report brought back to the Infrastructure and Property Committee, and that committee will then undertake whatever work comes out of that verbal feedback. So we can reflect in the minutes that that's where the discussion is going to take place, rather than it being an action point.
I think what Shane's asking, Sharon, is the report that got pulled last time, is that going to remain somewhere on our agenda to be brought back to us at some point in time?
Oh, my apologies.
Sorry,
Again,
Sharon, yep.
I would say that would probably fit back into the Infrastructure and Property Governance Committee for further exploration.
Well, thank you for that. That answers that question. But just on that public matters under investigation, the report dates ongoing and deferred. Oh well, deferred on until LTP process is fairly explanatory. But ongoing really isn't a date for consideration.
That's a very fair enough point, and I'm not actually over that particular item, so I'll make a point of reviewing that. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane. Elizabeth?
Yeah, just noting that the community halls and the libraries network plan is deferred until after the LTP process. But just after hearing the constituents at the meeting, I feel that it would be a shame, and obviously it probably can't be brought forward, but it's a shame that they can't have that kind of view of what's happening in their district as they look to the decision for what Whātaro is going to fill in terms of plugging the gap, because it does sort of tie in a way to their district, what we're going to be, what's the vision overall.
Sure.
Thank you. I would suggest it's actually far bigger than that, and it probably refers more to our investment and disinvestment strategy. And of course, that's a strategy that's just being developed, but I've got no doubt that that this very topic will be part of the strategy discussions.
Thank you. Anything else on the minutes? Board matters arising? No. Move on to my reports on page 21. A number of appointments here covering the end of last year since the last meeting and through January this year. I just note that since this was written, have spent 3 days at Waitangi last week. Was a very interesting visit and a powerful time to be there, thinking about the different days of Waitangi and a number of things that I wasn't aware of before I got there. So Monday being a day full of ceremony, and there was a lot of tension in the air, and a lot of performance and a lot of culture that was a part of Monday, and the pōwhiri welcoming on the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Ministers. And then Tuesday being Waitangi Day, full of festival and performance again, and stalls and an A&P show without the animals. There was some really good, lovely community vibe there at that time. So LGNZ obviously had a presence there through this year, and I think that we should think about our own council's journey and understanding of what Waitangi means to us, and whether or not it doesn't have to be on Waitangi Day, but understanding the journey and how the treaty was signed here by Ngāi Tahu, and the different stories that go here locally, as well as that national story, is a piece of work that Pamiria and her team are working on, and was due to be part of our training that was to be the end of last year, and will be coming up in one of our training sessions this year. So that is still to happen. Other than that, I'll move that you receive. Shane, your second. Thank you. Any questions on the report? Lydia?
I was just going to say, in events attended by councillors, did the Orion Transpower go ahead? Opening?
Yeah.
It did.
I was there.
Oh, good. And I attended the Glen Tunnel bike track opening on your behalf on the 8th of December.
Thank you. We'll let that on. Ta. All those in favour to receive the report say aye. Aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. Next item is the Chief Executive's report on page 24. Sharon.
Thank you, Sam. We held the Malvern Community Board Induction Day on Monday. So we welcomed the 2 new members, and then we brought the whole board together and took them through a full orientation that was very similar to the one that councillors would have received at the start of the triennium. I think it would be fair to say it felt a very successful day. in terms of relationship building, etc., and is certainly a start of the journey for the Malvern Community Board members. And at their first meeting next month, they will determine who the chair is going to be. This week, we also have our first of the year council code governance meeting. We're now transitioning to a more formal agenda, and it will be minuted, and where appropriate, the minutes will be shared via the council agenda, or if there's commercially sensitive information, it'll come into public excluded. But again, just formalising the relationship and the discussions that take place there. So that's quite exciting. Just noting the invite to the Orion board management and CCHL board management meeting. So I've met with the chairs and the CEOs and asked that SDC is included in some of the more strategic discussions, because whilst we are a shareholder and a smaller percentage shareholder, it doesn't feel like we've always been party to some of those discussions. So it's great to be invited along. And again, I will provide feedback where appropriate into the right public setting. And then just acknowledging and thanking Shay and Claire for the great work on the economic development strategy. We're getting to the final business breakfast, and it's been, I have to say, been overwhelmed and delighted with the support from our business sector and the desire to have input into an economic development strategy for our district that will serve us in outgoing years, and we look forward to being able to bring that framework to council for further consideration.
Thanks, Sharon. Did you want to have in the Orion conversation, Grant, do you want to?
I just noted that the governance is represented by both the Orion and Christchurch City Council, but there's no representation from our governance group. And I particularly would like to attend, but not necessarily me, but I think someone from governance should attend on behalf of Selwyn, because it does appear that their governance representatives are there as well.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine, and you're most welcome. I understand that there is a Selwyn representative that sits on the Orion board whose name completely escapes me.
Jen Crawford.
We have an appointee, so Jen will be there, but no, Grant, I'll give you the dates and be delighted for you to come with me.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Sharon on that report? Mover and seconder. Malcolm, seconded.
Yes.
Thanks, Shane.
Sorry. So if you
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Declare it carried. Thanks, Sharon. We move on to the Joint District Licensing Committee and Chief Licensing Inspector monthly report for the period 1st November through 30th of November. Malcolm, welcome along. Do you want to just take us through this report, please?
Kia ora tātou, good afternoon. Since our last time I appeared here, we've had the decision finally come out for the famous grouse. Probably aware of that. So they've had their renewal application granted, and I look forward to working with them pretty closely over the next 12 months. The other matter I just wanted to mention was that Sue Atherton and I were asked to attend a meeting with Lincoln University Students Association. They've indicated to us that they will be applying for another special licence this year for the garden party. You probably remember what happened in 2022, so I suspect we will have a public hearing for that one. And on that happy note, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Great, and councillors, we'll just take both of these reports together. So this is the October and November reports. If there's anything in either of those that you'd like to ask now, feel free. Phil.
Yeah, g'day. How you going? Colgate Tavern. I see you got a renewal, and I think it might be in October. Were they not licensed? Was it? Sorry, it's a new license. Thank you. Yeah, 3 or 4 over there.
Yeah. Look, yeah, the Colgate Tavern, that changed hands. It was a new licence because it simply changed hands. It wasn't the only place. We had Darfield Hotel change hands, West Melton Tavern change hands, Silver Dollar change hands. There's been a lot of changes. Yeah.
Thank you. Elizabeth.
Yeah, I did read it, but it goes in one half of my brain and out the other because it's not really my lane. But just wanted to quantify, you had a hearing with the famous grouse, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah,
Back in
and
October.
I take it that went well for them and the renewal of their license has come about because it was a good outcome there?
Yes, so the District Licensing Committee took a couple of months to report back, and their decision was that they would grant the renewal application. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for mover and sec. Move, Shane.
Oh, yeah, I'm here. Well, I just wanted to put it out there first that as
Is that a question? Sorry, I didn't see.
a question, yeah.
Yep, there you go.
I had
Or comment.
just,
Yep.
Just noting that as a DLC member, I have no conflict. I've confirmed that with members here. But Malcolm, a question around the amendments to the bill and community engagement. Maybe some thoughts around what that would mean locally, and also opportunity to weave tikanga through. Have you had any, or are you open to having a bit of a corridor around that?
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of consultation with mana whenua, that's something, I mean, we just got an application just yesterday. I mean, alcohol is not going out of flavour anytime soon. So the applications are coming in all the time. This is for a bottle store. And that's something that I will be referring back to and consulting with mana whenua about. It's for a bottle store here in Rolleston. And as you know, there's already quite a few bottle stores here in Rolleston, so there'll probably be some discussion on that. In terms of the amendment, yeah, we've had an amendment go through. What it's done is it's allowed, or it's given objectors 25 working days in which to object to a licence now. See, they only used to get 15 days. So they've extended that time to give people more time to prepare. They've also made changes in relation to how the District Licensing Committee hearings take place. So they're going to make them a lot less formal, no ties, just less formal. And there's been, like a number of changes there just to make it more approachable and so that community members can actually come along and feel a little bit more comfortable about giving evidence. The other thing they've taken away, or they've done, is they've actually changed the process where there's no cross-examination anymore. So the parties can't cross-examine the other parties. And so for me as a licensing inspector, I can't ask the applicant questions about how they propose to run their bottle store, for example. So that's going to be tough. So it'll be up to the District Licensing Committee to actually ask those questions on behalf of all the agencies. So there's some good parts to the amendment, and there's some other challenges to be worked through. So we'll just see that comes into effect on the 31st of May. So we'll see how that takes place. But we've got some more hearings coming up shortly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jane, Phil.
Just wanted to talk about Rolleston for a moment. Just about, obviously, there's the increase in the licences and everything around Rolleston. And probably would have been about a year ago, I asked the famous, how's things going in Rolleston? I asked again, how things going in Rolleston in terms of alcohol-related harm, like the licensing environment, specifically as we see down on Tennyson Street. There's just a few more bars there now. What are your thoughts? Is what I'm asking for. Yeah.
Same as last year, Phil. Yeah, things are going very well. Very limited alcohol-related harm issues for Selwyn. I mean, I speak just about every day with Constable Craddock from the police, and we're always talking about not just Rolleston, but all of Selwyn, but certainly Tennyson precinct. Rolleston's looking very good. Yeah, there's no problems that are standing out.
So there's no police statistics that we've got. Well, you probably don't have them. Look, I don't have them. Do you know of anything like any late evening typical alcohol things? Is there anything showing up?
No, I mean, I'm not aware of any, and I'm very sure that I would have been told.
I'm sure you would
if I'm told, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks. And if we could just, Phil, I'll let you speak a second time then, because we're reasonably casual at the moment and we're not pressed for time in today's meeting. But if we could just remember, councillors, that if we could keep our comments and conversations to the one time on the microphone, and it just makes it easier for the chairperson or in our committees to also just manage the meeting as we go. So just around timing would be helpful. Thank you. Someone else had another question there before. They've dropped off. Megan, you okay? Easy. Okay. Is there a mover and seconder then for this? Elizabeth and Phil. Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. Thank you. The next item is on page 47 of today's agenda. So, no, sorry, I've jumped ahead. It is page 38. It's the Lincoln Rugby and Horata farming leases. Moved by Malcolm, seconded by Elizabeth. Would you? Is there any discussion or questions? You haven't quite got away quite yet, Bob.
Yeah, I presume these leases are at market rates, and they'll keep up with.
So the pricing.
Any further questions that anyone has? All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. Thank you.
I was just going to ask a question about.
It's gone.
That's all right.
Waimakariri Gorge Bridge deck replacement delegation to approve award of contract, page 47. Gareth, welcome along. Do you have a mover? Welcome. And a seconder? Shane, thank you. Gareth, I'll let you talk to the report.
Cool. Good afternoon, councillors, Mayor. We'd originally planned and intended to be bringing you a tender award today, approval for the Waimakariri Bridge, as in line with our procurement policy because of the size of the of the tender. But we had to change tack slightly, and for good reason, as hopefully outlined in the report, and seek a delegation from council to delegate award down to the chief executive. The tender process has been delayed in its progress a wee bit, and delayed for good reason. A lot of the tenders, as you imagine, we're not dealing with an everyday item here. We're dealing with a speciality of a bridge. Contains significant tags that came in, and those tags take time to be cleared. They need to be worked through slowly, methodically, and assessed, because if not, and just accepted, there could be some serious implications and cost implications at the end of it. I understand the tender evaluation team have worked through those tags now since writing the report, and are just proceeding to move on to the price envelopes. The reason why that's significant is, by the time if we had to delay for the next council to bring a report back to the next council, we run the risk of missing construction windows. We want to make sure that this deck goes down on this bridge correctly. We don't want to be facing another redecking issue. We don't want to be running into weather issues. We need to be making good progress in good weather. And also aligned to that as well, a significant amount of work has been done by both councils, by Waimakariri and ourselves, around notification to the public, closures. We've worked with Fonterra in terms of shift change patterns, and all that's nailed down. So those are the principal reasons why we've diverted to this approach. So happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Gareth. Sophie.
Yeah, I got two questions. But thank you very much for all the work, because obviously there's a lot of people who really want this bridge fixed, eh? I mean, so totally appreciate the complexity of the job there. First question is there any risk to the Waka Kotahi co-funding that you know of, or is that locked in?
The obvious answer is no. There's no risk to the Waka Kotahi co-funding. I guess the only risk that I could signal is if we have a delay through the construction process, the funding is tagged in this period, this year of this NLTP, which is year 3. So yes, we've got to get it spent by by the end of July. Cool. But there's conversations about the funding, but Waka Kotahi have to front with their share.
Fair enough. Second question was, in 6.1 of the report, no, I got no problems with the mention of, obviously speaking with Mana Whenua about it. I'm just curious as to why that's going through community services rather than Te Pou Matawa, which is a separate department.
Sorry, that might be my spelling there. I thought it were community services. I am talking to Maria and Maria as well. So we sent the documents through in November last year. We're progressing and going through it. Maybe that's my bad on that one. So apologies.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, Maria.
I can respond to that. Te Pou Matawa currently sits within community services. While we are forming ourselves and consolidating ourselves.
Okay. Thank you. Elizabeth.
The Waimakariri Bridge, in terms of the epoxy chip seal surface, is this a more superior product than the bitumen that's going on the roads that obviously we're having quality issues with? Is there a guarantee of work for the bridge so that if there's any issues with this bridge, like you're talking about a replacement, having to replace the replacement, if there is that, is there a guarantee? Who takes that guarantee and who funds that guarantee?
Commercial. There will be a guarantee. Like most construction contracts in this country, there'll be a 12-month workmanship warranty with the contractor. In terms of the specific product guarantee, how long is that one, Jeff?
I think very similar. It'll only be the construction period, the warranty period, which is 12 months. But the epoxy is basically has polymers in there. So what we've got a better flexibility so that where the elements of the bridge put together, when there's elements of movement in there, it doesn't crack up and fall apart as what has previously occurred on some bridge decks. So.
To answer your first question, aspect of that question, Councillor, in terms of the product, yes, I think the design team and Jeff's team and Waimakariri's team are very confident that this approach is a very superior product compared to the method of construction that was used in 2011. This is a specially prepared imported product, which is resin impregnated and will stand up a lot better to the wear on the bridge.
Thank you. Grant.
I've got three questions. I suppose the first one is just around process. It seems a wee bit unusual to me that we're discussing our budget and our contingency in a public meeting when we haven't yet finalised the negotiations with the tenderers. It seems unusual, I would have thought, just as an aside. Perhaps that for the CEO to think about. Second thing is the fact that we've added that contingency on, is that an indication that it's likely, or is it just that it's just a contingency, or is it likely the way it's a contingency? Okay, you've nodded to that. The third one we've talked about, we've ordered and the decking materials themselves are going to be principal supplied. Warranty-wise and security of that material, does the warranty ownership transfer to the tenderer? I mean, because if we're principal supplying them decking materials, potentially, we are the warrantable agent. So has that all been worked through? I'm assuming it has.
Yes, should be written into the contract. That'll pass to the contractor.
Yeah. Talk about that. The last question was, we've had an ongoing project where we've talked with NZTA about roads of national significance. This is on the list to ask to be reclassified as a state asset rather than?
We have mentioned it in the past. There's not a lot of appetite to take it over. But we can't lose sight of the fact that when we did highlight this, probably this time last year to NZTA, that they did step up to the plate and step in with funding to do this work at the bridge.
Because I was under the impression we were preparing lists to send to Mr. Cagle of roads we considered. Is that not happening now?
I'm not aware of that. Can also answer your questions, Councillor, around the budget. In terms of the budget contingency, in terms of numbers, we're only a 24.5% contributor to this budget. So the contingency is only a budget contingency, but it's a much smaller number than the contingency on the whole project. We only bear 24.5% of that liability. The overall project budget, no, we don't ordinarily publish what budgets are to people, although anyone can find out what budgets are what in the long-term plan, which is published, of course. But we did work very closely with contractors. We did work very closely with the designers through this process. So there was no point us designing a bridge, which a solution that was going to be $6 million, $10 million if we only had $3 million in the bank. So that's not an indication of what tenders are going to be, because there is competition at the tender box, but the budget was known in the public arena.
Thanks, Grant. Deborah.
Thanks, Grant. My question follows on from when the tenders do come in, and we've already approved a approval budget of 20%. That's only the $147,000. If it comes in over budget of the 882, will it be reported back to council as a process?
Yes, that's what the report says.
Okay.
Yes.
The next question, I guess, is not knowing what our neighbours are going to be doing. Do they have to front up with their share of the cost and the increase as per an agreement? So we're not sharing a shortfall?
Yes, yep, and their funding is all in place. And apologies, I should have added in my introduction as well that because of the tender process, Waimakariri have also taken the decision to delegate award of tender to the chief executive to proceed things.
Thank you. And this conversation's along the lines of what we need to do around all of our delegations and think about actually what's the right level of decision making when funding's already been put aside through a long-term plan, confirmed again through an annual plan, and we're actually just waiting for the works to be completed, whether or not coming back to a council meeting is the right way to go, tender by tender as we go through, and what level and quantum are we okay with the chief executive being delegated and amounts to, with clear reporting lines, Deborah, as you've said, back to us about how that money's been spent, and if there's the need to change it, then obviously that's when they would come back to us. But when things fit within delegations, which is going to need to be part of our review, that will simplify some of these processes. Did we have a mover and seconder at the beginning of this? Elizabeth and Bob. All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now move to the end of the public portion of our meeting. Thanks to anyone who's been watching online or in the future is watching this video. Resolution to exclude the public moved. Thank you, Sophie. And
Do we need to say something about public forum?
the public forum, I said after the matter itself was going to be fed back through next week's meeting, and there'll be a chance for the staff to give a verbal. And if there's any further questions, councillors can ask them then. But is there anything else you'd like there, Nicole? I'm happy to hear that. Okay. Resolution to exclude the public. Mover, Deborah. Seconded, Malcolm. Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Anyone against? Declare it carried. Thank you. And we'll just adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes while we move over.